On September 28, 2016, Blackberry Limited announced it would stop designing its own smartphones. The company that had once controlled 43% of the American smartphone market, that had 85 million subscribers worldwide at its peak, which made the President of the United States fight his own secret service just to keep his phone. But Blackberry was done making phones. The stock that had traded at nearly $150 in 2008 was sitting below $8. More than $70 billion in market value had been erased, and on January 4th, 2022, the servers went dark. Phones that had once been described as more addictive than nicotine could no longer make calls, send texts, or dial 911. But Blackberry did not die. It is now embedded in 215 million cars worldwide. Its software runs the infotainment systems of vehicles made by Audi, BMW, Ford, Toyota, and Volkswagen. The phone company that lost everything quietly became the operating system for the roads. This is the story of how Blackberry built the most dominant mobile platform in America, ignored the one threat that could destroy it, and later found success in a business it never planned to build. In 1984, two engineering students named Michael Lazarides and Douglas Fregan founded a company called Research in Motion in Waterloo, Ontario. For most of the next decade, they were a contract engineering firm, building specialized wireless technology for clients like General Motors. Their first real breakthrough came in 1996 with the interactive pager, a two-way messaging device that ran on Mobitech's wireless networks. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. By 1999, RIM had refined the concept into something new, the Blackberry 850, a thumb-sized email device that could push messages to a user's pocket the moment they arrived on a server. The device found its audience fast. Banks, law firms, government agencies, and executives adopted it because it solved a problem that nothing else could: staying connected to a corporate email server without sitting at a desk. By 2002, RIM released the Blackberry 5810, its first actual phone. More capability followed with each iteration: color displays, built-in cameras, Wi-Fi, but the defining feature was never the hardware. It was what the hardware enabled. In 2006, RIM launched BlackBerry Messenger. BBM worked exclusively between BlackBerry devices, using a PIN system that created something no one had planned for: a closed social network built around a phone. Texting was expensive, BM was free. The result was a network effect that locked users into the ecosystem with a force no marketing campaign could replicate. To be on BBM was to belong to something. The D and R, delivery ticks, became their own social language. By 2007, Research in Motion was the most valuable company in Canada, worth over $67 billion. It had 10 million subscribers and was growing faster than any company on the Fortune list. Barack Obama, about to run for President of the United States, refused to give his up. "They are going to pry it out of my hands," he said. Kim Kardashian called it her heart and soul. The nickname Crackberry entered Webster's New World College Dictionary. It had sold 50 million phones that fiscal year. Revenue had reached nearly $20 billion, with over 80% of that coming from hardware. The company that had started as a wireless engineering contractor had become the most culturally powerful phone brand on earth. On January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco and introduced the iPhone.
Solve this problem. So how are we going to take this to a mobile device? Well, what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen. A giant screen.
BlackBerry's co-CEOs Mike Lazarides and Jim Balsillie were not in the room. They didn't need to be. Their engineers analyzed the device and came back with a verdict that felt like reassurance. The iPhone had no physical keyboard. It was expensive to manufacture, it failed durability tests, and its battery life was inadequate for enterprise users. Their conclusion was that Apple had built a consumer toy, not a business tool. The smartphone market, they believed, belonged to professionals. Apple was selling to teenagers. For a year, the data seemed to support them. BlackBerry's market share kept growing through 2007. Sales tripled between 2007 and 2009. The iPhone was carrier exclusive, available only on AT&T in the United States, which locked out millions of potential buyers. BlackBerry was everywhere. In 2008, RIM stock hit $148. The company was worth more than it had ever been worth. Then Android arrived. In September 2008, HTC and Google released the first Android phone. The dynamics changed immediately. Apple had been a single competitor. Android was an ecosystem, one that any manufacturer could adopt, and one that developers were beginning to treat as seriously as iOS. BlackBerry was no longer defending a position against one rival. It was now facing a platform war, and it had no platform to fight with. BlackBerry OS was built for push email. It was not built for apps. The system was efficient at doing one thing, and structurally resistant to doing much else. When Apple launched its App Store in 2008, it opened with 500 applications. RIM launched its App World in 2009 with significantly fewer. Developers had already made their choice. The economics of app development are governed by installed base. You build for the platform with the most users. By the time RIM's store reached meaningful catalog depth, iOS and Android had years of ecosystem momentum behind them. BlackBerry's app gap was not a gap, it was a chasm, and it was widening every quarter. BlackBerry's first public response was the Storm, released in late 2008. It was their first touchscreen device. Critics called it sluggish, buggy, and unfinished. The screen used a mechanical click mechanism that felt nothing like the iPhone's glass surface. It was returned in unusually high numbers. RIM quietly issued a software patch to address the worst issues, but the damage was done. The company's first attempt to compete on the iPhone's terms had failed in public, in the hands of reviewers, in front of customers who had been waiting for a reason to stay. Management's internal reaction was to dismiss the touchscreen itself. Their users, they believed, wanted keyboards. They were right about their existing users. They were wrong about the market. Then came the playbook. In April 2011, RIM released its tablet to compete with the iPad, which Apple had launched a full year earlier. The playbook shipped without a native email app, without a calendar, without a contacts application. A device aimed at business professionals had none of the features that defined BlackBerry's identity. The product had been rushed to market to avoid falling further behind. It arrived broken. Forsten Hines, who became CEO in early 2012 as Lazardis and Balsillie stepped back from day-to-day operations, later described the period as one of simply trying to stop the bleeding. "We were losing market share," he said. "We were writing off a lot of stuff. We were losing money like crazy, billions of dollars every quarter." Between 2009 and 2012, BlackBerry's global market share fell from 20% to less than 5%. In 2011, the company sold 50 million phones. 2 years later, after releasing the Z10, its long-awaited fully touchscreen BlackBerry 10 device, that number had dropped below 30 million. The Z10 was, by most technical assessments, a competitive smartphone. Its camera was capable, its OS was refined, its hardware was premium. It arrived 3 years too late. Users were already locked into iOS or Android. Their apps were there, their contacts were there, their habits were there. RIM had spent 3 years building the right product for a decision its customers had already made. In the fourth quarter of 2016, BlackBerry's smartphone market share was measured at 0.0%. In 2012, Lazardis and Balsillie stepped down. The company they had built from a contract engineering shop into a $67 billion empire was now worth less than $4 billion. That same year, to signal a new direction, Research in Motion officially changed its name to BlackBerry. The irony was precise. The company adopted the name of its most famous product at the exact moment that product was dying. John Chen became CEO in November 2013. He arrived to a company that was losing billions of dollars per quarter, had written off nearly its entire inventory, and was actively fielding acquisition offers it couldn't afford to reject. Fairfax Financial had proposed a buyout at $4.7 billion. The board rejected it, not because the price was wrong, but because Chen had a different argument. BlackBerry's value was not in its phones. It was in two other things the company had been building quietly for years. The first was its security infrastructure. BlackBerry's Network Operations Center had been the backbone of its push email system, a closed, encrypted routing system that the US Department of Defense had declared essential to national security. Governments around the world trusted BlackBerry with data that they trusted no other mobile platform to carry. That trust was an asset. It was not tied to the phone. The second was QNX. In 2010, while still at the height of its phone business, BlackBerry had acquired QNX Software Systems, an Ottawa-based company that made a real-time operating system used in industrial, medical, and automotive applications. The acquisition was made to improve BlackBerry's phone OS. That plan never fully materialized. But QNX itself was already embedded in a different industry entirely, the automotive sector, where it ran infotainment systems, driver assistance platforms, and safety-critical software in vehicles from nearly every major manufacturer. BlackBerry had purchased a dormant asset and barely noticed. Chen noticed. His strategy was straightforward: stop making phones, own the software. In 2014, BlackBerry acquired Secresmart, a German company specializing in encrypted voice communications used by the German government. By 2016, Chen made the final call: no more BlackBerry-designed hardware. The phone business was licensed to TCL, a Chinese consumer electronics company, which continued producing BlackBerry-branded Android devices under a manufacturing agreement. The last internally designed BlackBerry, the Key One, shipped in 2017. By 2020, even the licensed devices had stopped. On January 4th, 2022, the legacy OS servers were shut down. BlackBerry phones running the original software could no longer function. The platform was over. Today, BlackBerry operates two business units. Its cybersecurity division secures mobile applications for banks, governments, and healthcare providers. Its IoT division, built on QNX, is now embedded in 215 million vehicles worldwide. The automotive software market, according to BlackBerry's own projections, is expected to roughly triple in size between 2020 and 2030. As cars become more autonomous, as driver assistance systems grow more complex, as vehicles process more data than any mobile phone ever did, the software running underneath all of it increasingly belongs to BlackBerry. The stock has not recovered to anything near its 2008 peak, but the company is still standing. That alone is not nothing.